What's going on, Rhode Island? We're here for episode 4 with very prominent Rhode Islander, James Diossa, youngest mayor in Rhode Island history, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, you were. 27, I believe.
27. Now I'm 37. So
Oh, you're an old man. 10 years later.
Too fast. Fast.
You know, that must have been a whirlwind of 27 years old, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You grew up, town's in bankruptcy. You were on the council for 4 years, I believe. And
3 years.
Just to kind of have that courage to say, I can create change. I can take my community, my town, out of this bad situation.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give me a little bit about the mindset
Absolutely.
of where you were at that age?
It all started with, I was in college up in Worcester studying, and I was a junior at the time, and I was captivated by the campaign of Barack Obama. I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I felt like it was talking to me about going back into my community and helping and making things better. So when I graduated college, I went back into Central Falls, ran for city council, won by 17 votes. I served there for three years. And during those 3 years, we had bankruptcy filings. The mayor got indicted on corruption charges and opened up the opportunity for me to run for mayor, which at the time I was 26. And I said, yeah, let's do it. I had a good support group of friends, of supporters, and that sort of helped me launch into the mayor's office. And when I got elected, the city had hit rock bottom, so I knew very well there that I needed a really good team to help me to balance my inexperience, to help me understand, the short term and the long term of where we wanted to go. And we put a good team together. And I think that rebuilding CF has become not only a Rhode Island success story, but nationally,
Absolutely.
It's been recognized. So very proud of the work that we did over there.
As you should be. And you're a former athlete, right?
Yeah,
you
love
played
soccer,
in college, I believe,
yeah,
right?
high school.
You touched on some important parts because it's to rebuild a community, to rebuild a state. We're coming out of a pandemic here. Disposable income's down. You're running for a very, very important position here in our state, general treasurer. But just kind of getting to know you as a person prior to all this, right? You said what inspired you, Barack Obama, powerful speaker, inspirational president, kind of at a time when the world needed us the most, his voice carried,
Yes.
and I have been fortunate enough to see both sides of the spectrum, right? I've served obviously on the council,
Yeah.
so I've learned that side, and there's a lot of information you learn, and I've also been out there in the community being an advocate, opening small business, but before all that, I was a hockey guy.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Pretty kind of similar, right? We had
But
two
building a team,
nets.
right?
Yeah.
All different roles, all different perspectives. How did you utilize that knowledge in your service?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a team, right? And that cliche of there's no I in team is true. You can't carry a team by yourself. And so taking that experience, understanding the challenges of every game, just like in every day in office, knowing that regardless of the challenges, you have a team that's striving for the same goal just makes it much more exciting to overcome. And so that mentality of being a team player, being understanding that not every day you're going to win.
Sure.
You're going to try hard to win, but not every day you're going to win. Really helped propelled what we did in CF. I brought people in there who were hungry, that wanted to win, that wanted to see Central Falls no longer be the butt of all jokes, but
Sure.
be a place where people want to live, grow, eat, have fun. And so I think we've turned a huge corner on that end. And if you go by Central Falls now, it's different. And I talk to people who've go to Central Falls because of Stanley Burgers 20, 30 years out. And they say, yeah, Central Falls looks better, cleaner. There's a sense of community, a lot of investment, development. It's great. And so it's important because as a person who stepped into the political arena, I understand Central Falls is a community, it's a city, but you want to play a bigger role in your state. And being able to make Central Falls stronger is important to the state as a whole.
Yep. It's interesting, like, Central Falls was kind of an underdog. You took it over in some very, very tough economic times. And if I'm thinking movies, right? some of my favorite movies of all time: Sandlot,
Yeah, yeah.
Mighty Ducks,
Mighty Ducks.
um, Rocky.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I could
yeah.
go on and on,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, it's kind of like, where do you start? You know, and it's like when you're at the rock bottom. You know, obviously you guys were in tough times. To see what you've done there, and obviously with your career over the last decade, I'm sure it hasn't been easy. And you talked on losses, right,
Yeah.
playing sports, and you talked on um, what you learned, you know, it resonated with me because I think if you can just keep fighting and keep motivating and keep inspiring and keep learning from those losses and keep
Mhm.
growing around that, anything is possible, right? I
Well,
mean,
and you know, you've been on the side of government. I think the number one important thing for any elected official is to listen.
sure.
Be a great listener, and I think that that's what helped me inform what we needed to do next in Central Falls. And I think that the people were very active, very
Yep.
vocal. I listened, and I did my best to achieve the what was best for the greater good, and I think we did that very well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is where you're heading next. And
Yeah.
for those not familiar with politics, if you serve 10 years in Central Falls, that means what in your town? I mean, I know in Cranston we're term limited.
Yeah.
Can you keep running?
No, term limited as well. Two for the mayor. It's 2 4-year terms.
And you did that?
I did that.
Yeah. And then you took a little hiatus.
After a little hiatus,
Yeah.
went to go work for a group called the Policy Lab at Brown.
Yep.
And then, you know, after talking to my family, they were very supportive with the decision of me running for general treasurer.
Yep. And why do you think now in these times that are so divisive, right? You know, as a public
Yeah.
servant, I feel like, especially when I was serving during COVID, everyone was just kind of looking for an enemy, someone to be
know.
mad at, right? Where everybody was mad, including us as public service. There was public servants. There was a lot that was out of our control. There was a lot that the world threw at us that we didn't know
Absolutely.
what to do. And you know, I think we're in some interesting times, just like in sports. Like when a team can come together, regardless of political party, regardless if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you can just keep listening to both sides, get back at the table, enjoy conversation, we can propel out of this,
Yeah.
right? We can grow from this. So, you know, I'm very interested to hear what your vision is for the state and for yourself, and upon winning, how you think we can, and fellow Rhode Islanders can navigate through these tough times that are
Absolutely.
ahead.
And I think that's the beauty of being a municipal level of, official, that, you know, at the end of the day, as much as you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're still expected to pick up the trash, still expected to plow the snow, fix sidewalks, you know, make important investments, be on the lookout for everyone. And I think that that's an important perspective that as a city councilor or mayor you have. And I think that what Rhode Islander needs now is a proven, tested leader
Yep.
at the State House, and specific with these statewide offices. And that's why McKee's done well. You know, he's
Yep.
been a former mayor, Sabina Matos, you know, city council president. And these are folks who understand the importance of listening to people. And so when I made the decision to run for general treasurer, I made it because I felt like I could continue building on the success of Treasure Magaziner. I love education. Education made a difference in my life. And so being able to remodel and build new schools is an important goal of mine to continue.
Yeah.
Our kids deserve the best.
Sure.
Our teachers deserve the best. Outside of that, you know, I'm still a mayor at heart. And so some of the programs in the treasurer's office can assist municipalities with projects, green projects, infrastructure projects, and I want to continue pushing money out at a low interest loan rate so that they can achieve these projects. And obviously, the big role of the treasurer is to manage the pension, and I've had experience in Central Falls doing that. And my goal is to be able to be a partner with all the cities and towns to assist them if they have any issues with their pensions or if they want to move their system into the state system. I have that experience of being able to communicate with them, but also how to achieve those goals. And so outside of all that, I think that the general treasurer has very explicit authority and role of what they have to do. But I'm a Rhode Islander at heart. I want to see Rhode Islander be the best. And going to be very active and vocal on issues that matter most for Rhode Islanders.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So for those that don't know, I mean, you kind of highlighted what you want to do if elected to that position. General Treasurer kind of oversees opportunity, obviously oversees the pension, like you said, oversees small interest loans or things of that nature to keep small business alive and
Yeah.
keep economic development going and keep disposable income coming into communities and families that need it the most. And with your proven track record, education being a priority, education's everything, right?
Absolutely.
Opportunity is everything. We're here in Rhode Island, two guys that, kind of grew up pretty similar from my understanding of you. We had to learn, we had to fight, we had to grit, we had to keep going, keep fighting to get to a platform where we have the ability to speak here today and talk about where we want to go forward, how we want to propel out of COVID, how we want to help families, how we want to help community. So I say all that because I understand the perspective. There would be times where during COVID, I'd watch stuff being said about me that I've never even met a person, and I feel like I had a pretty good favorable rating because I wasn't a career politician like yourself. I certainly got involved for the right reasons. I wanted to bring people together. I wanted to get both sides to come together, and I say all that because where do we go from here? Right? Like, we still are at a point where on a national scene, you're just seeing polarized people upset about disposable income, just upset about being able to pay heating bills that are rising. Building a team is one thing that you touched on, but what kind of safety or security or feel good can we give Rhode Islanders moving forward here in the next year with your leadership?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there were a lot of things that we learned about our communities, about our people, about our state during the pandemic.
About ourselves.
About ourselves, absolutely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember, reading the New York Times as the pandemic was unraveling and seeing what was happening in Italy and New York at the time, and looking at our data and seeing Central Falls infection rate climbing. It was very scary, very scary. Luckily for us, we had created an office on health 2 years earlier, and I had a doctor who was the former medical director for the state, Dr. Michael Fine, who literally guided me every step of the way through my last year in office.
Yep.
People are hurting. We still, what I've learned very easily is education, again, is important. This gap of 2 years of the pandemic where most students were learning online is a concern, right? Because not everyone had access. So there's going to be a lot of effort to help a lot of these students out to catch up, in a sense. Two is housing. Housing is so important. We need more affordable housing.
Yeah.
People are now living with other extended family because they can't afford rent, or they can't afford to buy a house. And then the small business community, I give it to them. They were resilient.
Sure.
They figured out every possible way of how to stay open, and we got to be very thankful to them and show our support even more. I know the governor's done an incredible job assisting. He understands small business, and we need to continue that and tell them that government's really here to provide a hand for you. And what I think was the most important thing, to your point of this vitriol of so much that's going on in the world, but in the country, partisan, nonpartisan, is that I've learned very well that being a public official is easy for people to point the finger at you. It's okay for them to write stuff online, which they do a lot. That you wake up every morning giving your best.
Yep.
And more than that, you're doing it in a way with integrity and honesty. And regardless of who the person's writing about you or saying about you, you care about moving your city or your state in the right direction. And when you make those moves to move it in the right direction, it impacts people like them. And so
Sure.
overall, it's understand their frustrations, but know that you're working hard to make their lives better. And that's exactly why I got into
Sure.
politics, because I love public service. I love helping people. I love seeing things grow. I love seeing people do better,
Yeah.
and that's always been a virtue of mine.
I love
want
that.
to take it to the long run.
Some of the points that you said certainly resonated with me. As a council person, multiple terms, I learned a lot, and you can't unlearn the information once you learn it. And I know
Right,
you
yeah.
know that, right? And when you go on to being mayor, you learn more, and you have access to information that a lot of the general public just doesn't have. So you're making decisions on the information that a lot of people don't have, and often they're making quick judgment on those decisions. But then a few years down the line, when you're making that action, then they see it.
Correct.
Right, then they see the residual income. So I got some really, really good advice early on in the process. Is Ed, you got to block the noise. And I was brought into government. I wasn't looking to get involved. I was appointed, and that this was after multiple asks from a mayor. And he just said, Ed, if you just continue to be, and at the time I was an independent. I had no, party affiliation. He said, if you just keep leading with your heart, then the rest doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really what Rhode Island is, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look at that person on the billboard, or look at that person, when they're just as human as anybody else, right?
Exactly.
They're just trying to lead the best of their ability. So, I can tell you from my perspective, I really appreciate your commitment to this, not only your community, but now to Rhode Island. At least putting yourself out there vulnerably to say, I'm 38, I decided, 38, 37?
37. Yeah.
I'm 37, so I decided I want to give more of my time to helping this state.
Absolutely.
And I think you're on the right path, man.
This state's great, man. I love this state. This is
beautiful
awesome.
state. So speaking of that, what does James Diossa do for fun here in Rhode Island?
Well, outside of playing soccer, I'm still very active playing soccer. I have a 3-year-old with my spouse, Sandra Cano, and we love to eat, so we love to go to restaurants. So the fact that there's so many great restaurants in our state,
I think Rhode Island has some of the best food in the country, and I'm not just saying that.
Oh no, I think you can find it all here.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
You don't really have to
of
leave
all
the state.
different cultural
Exactly.
backgrounds, of all the. So, what are some of your
Exactly.
favorites? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, so I love Italian food, of course. So the Hill always has some great food. There's this new restaurant that opened up in CF called Shark Peruvian Lounge,
Okay.
and it's Peruvian fusion food. I love all food. I love all food.
Yeah.
I love all food, and
You spoke on resilience, and I think resilience is such an important quality in anything, right? It's you spoke resilience earlier, specifically on small business owners, and I can tell you in hospitality, we're still resilient. I mean, we're still looking for
I know.
a labor force, and it's tough often for me to hear employment numbers. We're at an all-time low for unemployment, and I understand that, right? But from all of us in the hospitality scene, we're like, really? Where? Right? Because we're constantly, if you go in anyone in retail and anyone in restaurants, we're still constantly all looking for building a team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how good the culture is, no matter how good the pay is, it's still tough because the numbers aren't there. In the pandemic, we saw a lot of people just leave people-to-people businesses and go into working at home or
Exactly.
transitioning into Amazon-type operations or whatever it may be. So, I am curious to hear how you believe you can attract people back into the workforce in this next role, or just keep that resilient spirit alive from the small business owner, because we never stopped, right? We just kept going. We had no other option. We had to keep figuring out a way to put food on the table. And for a state that has such good food, for a state that's known throughout the country, when I travel, all I'm doing is lobbying Rhode Island, Newport, Providence, our capital city, the food that we have here, right? How do you keep that resilient spirit alive to be, and you lead with resilience, right? You lead with good energy, but in this next opportunity, how do you keep doing that?
And then, if I get elected in November, I think that this whole slate that's on there, we've all had experience working with each other, and so being able to unite forces to think creatively of how to support the backbone of Rhode Island, right? These small businesses that, like yourself, restaurants who employ a lot of people in my community and elsewhere, to show again. I think we have to show appreciation. 2, we have to understand what they just went through, and 3, we're the government. How do we support in case of need? And those 3 things are important. And to the other piece of the labor shortages, it's real. You know, you
Yeah.
walk into some of these businesses and they're saying we're short staffed, and
Sure.
it's unfortunate, and you know, you're much more understanding of what they're doing just to keep their doors open. Um, we have to think outside of the box to see how we can help the small business attract these people back into the business, and we have to do it, because if not, some of these small businesses are going to go out of business,
Yeah.
and we're not going to be able to enjoy the restaurant, the small mom and pop that have provided a service for us for so many years. So I feel really good that if we're elected, I think that we'll bring in the small business community, we'll bring in the chambers of commerce, we'll bring in the hospitality group, so that they can inform us best as experts of what we need to do to help them out.
Yeah. You know, you touch on so many points. It is, we've talked about this kind of throughout the entire podcast. It's about building a good team. So, you know, when people are electing James Diossa, they're not just electing James Diossa, they're electing you and the team around you. And in
Correct.
addition to that, the relationships that you've built that are already in public service. And it's
Yeah.
important as someone that's been through it to be able to make a phone call, and then that public servant at a higher level or at an equal level or in a different organization is listening.
Yeah.
Right. So it seems like you've done a very, very good job formulating those relationships with those, and you have kind of a team that is running. But how about that internal team around you? Like, what are you looking for to fill that bench, right? To fill that, so that
absolutely.
everyone has a different role and can bring something else to the table.
Yeah, look, I did it in Central Falls. You know, I brought a mixed group of, you know, very experienced to young and dynamic people, and of all walks of life, and more importantly, people that I want around me are people who love the state, because I know that they're always going to go the extra mile. And so in this office, I'm going to adopt the same style and bring people from Rhode Island who really care about Rhode Island, who want to see Rhode Island succeed, experts, young people, so that they can understand government and be empowered. This is exactly what worked well for me in Central Falls, and I know it will work well if elected to the State House.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So this is the most important question. So you have a 3-year-old.
Yes.
I'm about to have my first.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that right when you had it feeling?
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Mindset all over the place, right?
You're happy. You're nervous. You're
Yeah.
scared. Your confidence goes down a little bit. Like, can I really do this?
Yeah, bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Any advice for me that? As I'm
Yeah,
about to-
I think the biggest one is it really changes your life. I say it gives you more purpose.
Yeah.
I know that you have purpose now. Now, you know, having served the community, now serving your community in a different capacity as a small business owner. This gives it so much more purpose. Now you're working to ensure that the baby has the best life possible, or not better than yours.
Sure.
And I think that the fact that you now wake up in the morning and, you know, you're responsible for a beautiful, precious baby, I think that is the biggest motivator I've had in these last few years. And now that she speaks and calls me daddy and says I love you and talks to me about how school was, it's
everything, right?
It's everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. It's again another reason why why I'm running for statewide office is my hopes is that she stays in Rhode Island for her entire life, and I want to build or help build a better Rhode Island for
Amen.
that generation.
Yeah, love that. I will say you man, you hit it on the head. The last, just as it's getting closer and closer here, my range of emotions are insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's just crying, or it's just fear.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's a cool crazy. It's like just watching that room come together, that baby room. But similarly, there's an added pressure of continuing. Before it was just me, right? Then it became me and my wife. Now it becomes me, my wife, and a family, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting to see things differently, the sacrifices that were made to have us two just sitting here talking life, talking Rhode
Absolutely.
Island, talking leadership, talking moving forward, right? And the sacrifices that those before us made for us, our families,
Huge.
and the sacrifices we're going to have to make
Huge.
for them.
Huge.
You know, and
Huge.
it's a good chapter ahead here.
You
It's a
know,
good. Well, I need you to make it a good chapter.
No, and,
Keep it-
and to your point, our parents made it a little easier with more opportunities for us, and we want to create more opportunities for that next generation. And
What did your parents do growing up? Do you mind me asking?
they came over from Colombia in the late 70s, early 80s, and they worked in factories.
Yep.
Yeah, so my dad was able to buy his first home, which is still there, and knock on wood, we never missed a meal.
Yep.
Thanks to him and his job and my mom's job, and so you value that
For sure.
and that's why I love this state. This state really took in my family, allowed them to enjoy the American dream, and there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, amen. I mean, similarly, I grew up. My dad got hurt on the job, retired on disability right around when I was born, and my mom had to go back to college and work overnights, and didn't see her a lot of my childhood, and took my first job caddying at a country club at 13, and but they worked hard, and I say that even my father, picking me up, get me those hockey practices,
Yeah.
get me in those rooms with people, even just get me to that caddy job, right, where I could ask the members questions and keep continuing to grow. It's been an interesting 37 and 38 years. It's been a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of resilience, but those doors were open from parents that wanted to see a better life for us,
Exactly.
right? And I don't see myself slowing down at any point here especially with the child on the
No,
way,
no.
and I don't see you either. So
No, and you're gonna be.
you need a lot of energy, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna start thinking a lot more about what else can I do for my child
Yeah.
to make life better for your child and your family. But you got a good heart, man, and you're gonna be a great dad. And
I appreciate it, man. Right back at you.
And it's gonna be exciting watching you
I appreciate
from
it.
afar.
Yeah, I appreciate it. See, one day at a time, right?
Yeah,
Like life.
one day
But
at a time.
you lead with love. You lead with your heart, and just go one day at
I
a
know.
time, right?
I know exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I have one coming in January, a baby boy. So I'll be
Heck yeah.
communicating with you, see how you're doing.
Yeah,
if
I
you're
love that.
sleeping.
I love that.
But it'll be fun. A lot
That's
of fun.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Anything else you want?
No, we've been very good on the topics, and I think that more importantly, it's good for Rhode Islanders to see that there's a young generation that really
Sure.
care
Yep.
and that are really doing things to make things better. And
Yeah.
you're a great example of that.
Oh, thank you, sir. Right back at you. And I appreciate your time today. I appreciate, like I said, your continued investment. How can people learn more about you, or if they have something they want?
Yeah, they can go online, go to Diossa4ri.com.
All right. Cool.
And they can find out more about myself, my policy documents, and and contact information if they want to reach out and talk to me. So
Cool,
it's
man.
pretty straightforward.
It's good getting to know you a little bit more on a personal level, even outside of the name and the
Yeah.
the billboards and whatnot. I think transparency in government is everything, and
Absolutely.
you seem to be a very open book and a really
Have to.
good guy with a caring heart. So I look forward to watching your progress and seeing how November
Likewise,
goes. And
likewise.
thanks, man. And yeah, thanks for being here today,
Yeah.
man.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
of course.
you. Brother.
Thanks for checking out the another episode of the Park Podcast. We appreciate you all tuning in. James Diossa here, running for General Treasurer. Want to thank our sponsor, Sole Source Construction. We appreciate them for obviously making this happen. And let's keep going. Let's be resilient one day at a time.
Let's
Let's
do it.
turn this state around, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Thanks,
Let's do it.
James.
Thank you.
Appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you.